Okay, Cassidy, good to speak to you again.
Lucas, always great to speak to you. I'm glad I saw you in person.
Yes.
Yeah, what is it, about a month ago now, for your brother's wedding, maybe even
Yeah,
less. So
yeah.
it's nice to be able to speak because you were obviously very busy. It's your brother's wedding, but we got a
I
chance
didn't
to talk
speak
a
to
little
half
bit.
of my family, but I
Yeah,
spoke to you guys, so I'm happy to have made that happen. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, that was really really awesome, and it's nice to see some people on the podcast also in person. So that's
yeah,
always a blessing, and that's kind of what we're going to talk a bit about today as well with your
yeah.
Breakwater Festival. Can you just introduce it a bit, and then I'll ask some specific questions? Yeah.
Sure. So, you graciously are hosting me today because I asked if we could promote our festival that we're having in the Netherlands in November, which is the 7th through the 9th. It's called Breakwater Festival. And it's basically an estuary festival where people from all walks of life come together to hear speakers, participate in estuary, and just try to participate in these conversations that we've been having online in person that are grounded in real communities. And the hope for all of these events is to really support the local estuary groups that are growing out of this online YouTube space, and help them support and grow. And for people who don't know what estuary is, basically it's movement started by Paul Vanderklay, but it's been impacted by a whole bunch of people where we're just trying to have more honest and productive conversations about meaning and the questions big and small. And so that's really our aim, is to try to do that and facilitate that away from the online world into in-person participation. And I know you and your brother have an estuary in
Yeah.
Utrecht, so we're going to be partnering with you guys
Yeah.
to sort of help support your efforts in doing that during the festival in various ways. But yeah, I don't know if you consider what you do online part of the estuary movement or not, but there's lots of channels of
There's
people.
definitely overlap, let's say.
Yeah.
I
Well, and
mean,
I have my own little YouTube channel that I probably consider somewhere in the estuary space, but a lot of the work that I've been doing, especially recently, is trying to, yeah, find a way to bridge that online world and how we're having these conversations online and to the in-person space.
yeah. Yeah, and that's been amazing doing the estuary. I've never done it regularly, but now we have it locked in once a month, and it's
Yeah.
something that I really, really look forward to every month. And I think the festival will be similar in terms of depth.
Yeah.
I do think I feel like something misses in the
Well,
digital. So yeah,
it just kind of goes the next level because you're spending 2.5 days just with the same people doing these estuaries, getting ideas, having a space to talk these things through. And so it goes to the next level. And especially if you've already been doing a regular estuary
yeah,
and having these conversations, to be able to do that with people who you already have a connection with, but also new people, and get that
yeah,
like in-person human connection is
mhm,
really magical what happens with that.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm really interested to hear more about how your estuary is going. I see the updates. I unfortunately have almost 2-year-old and an 8-week old at home right now, so the
Yeah,
commitment to going
of
to Utrecht
course.
is not always plausible.
Yeah,
But I'm really rooting for you guys. I want to see you guys succeed, and I'm just so interested to see how it's going because we've been
yeah,
talking to estuaries in different countries throughout Europe, and even some of the estuaries in the U.S. Just hearing their experiences, and it's so interesting to see how each has their own individual sort of positives and struggles, and
mhm,
yeah, in the place where they're growing. And so it's always fun
yeah.
to hear about those things. But I'm sure maybe we'll get that here, but if not, sometime in the future in private conversations.
For sure, for sure, for sure. The first two Breakwater festivals I wasn't there for, but I've heard a lot about. And maybe you could talk a bit about how those went and what you're doing differently for this one.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we've actually done 3 previous festivals, but under 2 different names. So the
Sorry,
first,
three.
no, no, it's fine. The first festival we did was the Bridges of Meaning Festival in Germany,
Ah, yeah.
and it
Yeah.
was, yeah, it was really fun and beautiful. But we realized that as we got towards the end of the planning of our last festival, that there were some complications in taking on the name of a Discord that we didn't necessarily own. And so we wanted to create our own identity. So
Yeah.
we changed the festival's name to Breakwater and have been running with that ever since. So the last 2 festivals have been under the Breakwater name, and similar in operation, but different. And we've always made the festivals in previous years no more than 100 people, but
Hmm.
generally we were getting around 50 participants.
Hmm.
And our goal was really to just get really excellent at figuring out how to run events and understand what spirit we wanted to approach these events in, because there's a lot of different ways that you can take an event and have a different mission and a different focus. And so we kind of took the time in this sort of beginning phase to say, okay, do we like doing this? Can we get good at doing this? And if we're going to do this, what should the mission be? What should the focus be? And so, we've kind of really gotten, I think, a hone on that. And as we were sort of wrapping up this festival, and we've done some other small events as well. We did a small German speaking event. I think it was in March. And then we did Paul's Estuary Tour in February, where we went with him and facilitated conversations with estuary leaders and his participation in estuary for the Netherlands, Germany, and the UK. And we got a lot of conversations with people about what's happening with our estuaries, where they need help, where this is growing. And it was really inspiring, but it was kind of like a splash of cold water as well. It was like, okay, what are we doing here? We're doing these events and they're great, but they're just about breaking even. Yeah. And they're technically not breaking even because we're not paying anybody to do anything. We're totally running volunteer led, and people want to do that. That's great, but it's not sustainable long term if you want to kind of grow and be a support. And so it was sort of like, we either make a choice and we try to ramp down, do one more festival, and then call that a day, and let the seeds of what came from that be the seeds and be happy with that, or we try to take the next steps and we try to do more. And so after lots of back and forth, we decided we would feel remiss if we didn't at least try to take the next step and do more. So this is what we're doing with this next festival, and saying, okay, this is going to be the first step of taking it more seriously, trying to make it sort of a bigger event and allow that to open the door to other future events. And we have a crowdfunding campaign that we just launched August 1st. And that's where we're going to be selling pre-sale tickets and other experiences for Breakwater Festival. We're selling those at cost, one, to help us get those early funds to secure the venue and everything we need to just make it a reality with a little bit of breathing room, but also to allow it to be as cheap as possible for people who want to participate. Because these events are expensive, but we do want to be price sensitive and make sure that we're not marking something up to price people out. So we're kind of opening the door there, and all of the information about the festival and sort of what we want to do in the future is there if people want to take more in-depth look. But I'm happy to answer questions that you have about sort of the future.
Yeah. What could someone expect if, say, they go to the next one in November? What is the experience like? How long is it? Just a bit more practically.
Yeah, so it's a 3-day festival, basically a Friday evening. We do a kickoff party where everybody comes together who is going to be at the festival, and we meet each other. We have conversations. We find different ways to participate, but there's no active schedule or some event. It's just really come together, meet, and celebrate this time that we're going to have together. And then Saturday and Sunday, we have full day programs where we have speakers, we have estuary breakout sessions, and then we're going to be sprinkling in other sort of things to bring in community participation. We always like to try and celebrate art in some way. So we're still kind of working on the details of it, but we're heavily leaning towards doing a community film screening on Saturday night to highlight some of the work that people have done sort of in the estuary space or adjacent to it in the sort of meaning space, and have that be a part of the event as well. The theme is officially cross-pollination. We're still kind of working on the wording of the subtitle, but basically the idea is we're going to be exploring diversity and how do we navigate that well in like an increasing globalized world. And so we have Joseph Foley from Unsolicited Advice YouTube channel, Nathan Jacobs from the Nathan Jacobs podcast, and Jelle Hausman. He has a project called Europe at Midnight. He's a Dutch theologian and philosopher, and he's Anglican, I believe. Mm-hmm. And they're going to come together. They're going to offer speeches, but then within those speeches, you're going to have chances, if you come to the festival and participate, to go into estuary breakout sessions and put things on the table and to discuss whatever you want, really. It can be something from your life that's going on, or it can be something that sparked from the festival, but just really a chance to kind of meet in community and have these participations. And so we really try to find a way to make this event sort of interesting for people to come to from all different places in estuary. But what we're mainly focused on is community building, where everything we do is aimed at trying to make space for relationships to build so that these in-person communities can grow and people have sort of a celebration of sorts to come together. It's sort of like, I don't want to call it a pilgrimage. That feels maybe too sacrilegious,
Yeah.
but there's this sense of like, hey, you're coming together for some sort of big event to celebrate what has been happening in the short term with estuary. Or for those people who don't know what estuary are and they want to kind of try it out, that's a great place to do those things too. We're this year we're going to be using a full service event center, which is the first time we've ever done that before. And it really just a practical decision because of, my motherhood status and some of the responsibilities with our other organizers. To make this work, we needed that support. Before we really did shoestring budgets. I mean, we did a festival at your father's house one year and we did all the cooking and the organizing and everything. And so it was very much more, hands-on community participation and smaller. We're definitely expanding this a little bit to make it a little bigger, but we're still capping the ticket sales at 125, so it'll still be a pretty small, intimate event. And we're hoping that the center that we're in is a really nice space for something like this. They have really nice breakout rooms. It's an arts and culture event center, and they're really eager about the mission, and they think they want to support us with it, and they think it'll be fun. So I'm hoping that we can, although we're trying to expand, we still get that really personal and intimate setting. And in a couple weeks here on our Breakwater channel, I'm going to release some conversations that we had with the speakers and the organizers from the last festival.
Yeah.
The last festival, our theme was touching grass, so we didn't record any of the videos like we had in previous festivals. And so we were kind of figuring out, well, how do we share what happened? Because it was just a beautiful thing that happened. So we're in the process of and have recorded some videos to kind of have people debrief on what happened at the festival, and that'll give you a sense of what the festivals are like. So those will be coming out here soon. So if anybody's kind of interested to kind of get a peek into what we do, that's a good place to start. On our Breakwater channel, we also have Q&As and community panels and speaker lectures online. Your brother's lecture is actually on there. But you can kind of get a look at that and see what our past speakers have brought, and that'll give you a sense of, what we hope will continue as well.
Yeah, wonderful. And I already saw that you're already planning into the future as well a bit. I'd like to understand what is the larger ambition of maybe the festival, but beyond that, it seems like you have ambitions. So
Yes.
I'm curious. I'm curious where you hope to see that go and where you see it going at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for better or for worse, I'm a very ambitious person, to the chagrin maybe of some of my other event planners. Because they're like, whoa, 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 what's going on here? But yeah, we've had lots of conversations, and I'm really in my mind trying to think, how do we make this sustainable, but how do we also make what we're doing fit the goal of what our mission is, which is really to support the in-person estuaries. And so part of that question is, how do we create events that are at different sizes, at different levels, that can help each other succeed and keep prices low? And how do we kind of figure out how to build that? So obviously we have the Breakwater Festival, and when we limit it to 100 people, that's really great because it's these intimate experiences. The problem is they're very expensive to run and then become cost prohibitive if you're really limiting the number of people. So if you can find ways to kind of grow and expand, it can make things a little bit cheaper, but it can also make things, a little less risky on the small end when you're doing smaller events. Yeah. So we're allowing the festival to grow as we grow. Right now we're capping at 125, but we're not putting a limit on where it could go. We're willing to let it get bigger if it needs to get bigger, but we want to kind of grow as we grow with relationships and not take too far a step and get ahead of our skis. But that's sort of the plan of the Breakwater Festival is going to grow and be sort of our bigger premier event, right? The international festival that people from all estuaries around the world can come and participate in. Always going to be in English, and who knows, maybe down the line we could have sort of different stages. You have an international stage and an English speaking stage, but you definitely want it to be sort of bridging that international gap. But we just in the last year are trying out a format we're calling the Breakwater Exchange, which is basically 1 day events, very similar to what we do with the festival, where we
Yep.
bring speakers and we do estuary breakout sessions and different ways where we can have community participation. But we do that all in the local language, targeted at the local communities. So in Germany, we did it in German. If we did one in the Netherlands, it would be in Dutch. UK, it would be English, so on and so forth. But it's really more focused on that community level. And we're capping those at no more than 100 people. And to start, we'll probably keep it even smaller so that they can really be tight-knit community participation. And I think that's what ultimately in-person estuary groups need. They don't necessarily need these big grand festivals to they're kind of sexy, right? Because you get
Yeah.
big speakers and
Yeah.
like, oh, it's sort of like the FOMO of it all, of like, oh, well, I want to be there because
Uh-huh.
this person's going to be there. But at the end of the day, what we really want is people to feel they have this support in their local community to have these conversations. Because why are we going to the internet to have these conversations?
Mhm.
Because we're not sure how to find it in our backyard,
Yeah.
or we're uncomfortable in finding that in our backyard. And so how do we create a space where that uncomfortability can be embraced,
Yeah.
can be feel more accessible? And when it comes to a lot of these conversations, there's so much value to being able to live life with the person you're having a conversation with, especially if for some reason there's some crisis that happens, to have that support. There's only so much you can do when you live across an ocean, but if they're 2 towns away, well, all of a sudden there's some built-in community aspect that makes these meaning questions more real and grounded. And I think
Yeah.
that's really important if estuary is going to survive. So that's sort of our second type of event that we're planning. Our hope is to do 3 different exchanges in 2026, one in Germany, one in the Netherlands, and one somewhere in the UK. We're in active planning on all 3 of them, but what will fully end up being, we're not totally sure yet. It kind of depends on, as things develop and how things go with the festival and all of those things.
Yeah.
And then the last sort of thing we're going to be doing is something we're called estuary boot camps, which we haven't actually done one yet, but we've been in development on it for a little while now. And basically, there are going to be these online intensives where, people can participate in estuary and, kind of develop in estuary and other meeting question space.
Mhm.
So there's lots of ways we can go with it, but I can't really say exactly what our plans are for that yet because it's still in development. But that's the hope of like at least doing one of those exchange or boot camps in 2026 as well.
Yeah.
But we kind of have to make the first festival a reality and feel like we can do that with that breathing room to be able to keep going and moving forward.
Yeah.
So that's where launching the crowdfunding campaign and trying to get support for the festival is super helpful and valuable because at this point we've been bankrolling the festival, and thankfully they've been at least breaking even. So or just about, so we haven't had too much of a loss, but I think we're all transitioning to places in our life where the loss hurts a little bit more if it doesn't work. And so trying to get a sense of what support we have and what interests we have, and trying to expand our reach to see, hey, is this thing that we're doing interesting and helpful for people outside of this little estuary circle that we've already created?
Mhm.
I think it is, but you kind of got to test the waters with that. So that's
Yeah.
why the crowdfunding campaign is super helpful. And another reason we kind of went that route too, instead of just purely selling ticket sales. We've only been able to do what we've done because there's been people who see what we're doing, want to participate, or want to donate to make it so that other people can participate.
I see.
So
Yeah.
we want to return to that same community and give them the opportunity to help us. And I think there's lots of people who would want to without anything in return. So we're letting that be an option. And we're just really grateful and incredibly humbled by the fact that people want to see what we're doing succeed.
Yeah.
It's been beautifully overwhelming.
Yeah. That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. I mean, I see also the goal of the festival, and I wonder what Estuary has done for you so that you would want to kind of further it so much and make it bigger and more of a part of people's lives. So could you talk
Yeah.
about that maybe?
Yeah. Well, that's a really good question. Estuary pretty much turned my whole life upside down. Before Estuary, I was a single, uh, evangelical Christian
Mhm.
trying to make it in sort of the entertainment world, filmmaking, that sort of thing, trying to overcome a bout of deconstruction and figure out what how I should truly participate in religion. And through Estuary, I met my husband. I moved to a different country. I've changed religious affiliation. I'm still a Christian, but went from being evangelical to Eastern Orthodox.
Mhm.
And yeah, I have children. So this whole weird thing that we did on the internet completely changed my life in the most beautiful way.
Yeah.
And I think I'm just so grateful for what it gave me that I want to at least be able to make a space where other people can find it,
Yeah.
and maybe it can have an impact in their life like it had on mine. And that's yeah, that's sort of the strange thing where I don't feel like I need Estuary the way that I did back in 2018,
Mhm.
2017, when I kind of first started doing this.
Yeah.
But I don't like I just got so much for it from it, and the participation from it.
Yeah.
I really want to see it succeed for the sake of other people who are in situations like mine, that we're trying to figure out how to have good conversations about these questions that were, plaguing me,
Yeah.
but, struggled to. And then finding this online community, and then having that be go from this online sort of participation to ground it into real life change and like real meaningful life. That's beautiful. And that's not to say that my life wasn't meaningful before, but
Mhm.
it's just sort of a different level of
Yeah.
like participation, of being able to look on the other side of saying, hey, I had all of these like desires and wants and dreams, and they just weren't sort of fulfilled. And now I'm living at least half of them. I have a family. I
Yeah.
have, I have a wonderful husband. I'm living sort of in a new country, getting new
Mhm.
culture, having this adventure, and that's really beautiful. And yeah, I've certainly lost some of those other dreams, but I think it's kind of been in a good way, where it all of a sudden
Yeah.
realizes, oh wow, some of those things that I thought were really important,
Yeah.
you know, it would still be nice if something could happen with it, but I'm just more content. And I don't know, I just want to provide that for more people, because I feel like there's so many people uncontent with the answers they have or the way they're seeking those answers. And Estuary has been, for me, a really helpful way in processing that journey and trying to get to a more content place.
Yeah. Well, I first of all think it's wonderful to just think through difficult questions, but to do so with people that kind of come from a place of just like wanting to help and wanting like there's not really an ulterior motive to
Yeah.
Estuary when you show up. It's like, okay, there's this group, you're gonna have an honest conversation. You can share what you'd like, you can bring in a topic that you'd like. And I feel that the energy that that brings is very unique, and it shouldn't be, but it is.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we don't have that level of community anymore or support as much as
Yeah.
people would want to. It's not as easy to talk to a friend for an hour or family
Mm.
member, even for that matter. Um, and so I think that format is it's really awesome. And I think even if I would have zero problems, which is not possible, but even if I would still find value in it.
Yeah.
So I see that intention and I like it. It's a it's a
But I think the thing that I find really beautiful about Estuary, it generally is more people focused and idea focused.
yeah.
Now, a lot of time people are putting big ideas on the table. We're talking about some
Yeah.
esoteric philosophy or something,
Yeah.
but it's often very much grounded in like personal experience as well. And the
Yeah.
reality is, like, we want to understand the personal stories and the history of why they think what they think and why these questions bother them, more than trying to figure out the answers to this idea.
Mhm.
And so that's where I think it's really helpful, especially if you're looking to build better relationships in sort of these person to person conversations. Because it's one thing to say you're trying to build a career being some sort of apologist, or, some sort of influencer who talks about things, right? That
Mhm.
totally valid. I'm not knocking that, but it adds a different dynamic
Yeah.
to the conversation. And I think you could see it in something like those Jubilee
Yeah.
surrounded videos,
Yeah. I've seen
where it's
those.
sort of like the concept's kind of interesting because they're gamifying conversation.
Yeah.
And that's what Estuary is sort of doing in a less sort of structured way. But like, you know, I think a lot of people who are in these conversations in the Estuary space, they're not seeing it as like a debate or, you know, primarily as like a search for truth. They're kind
Yeah.
of seeing it as a form of play.
Yeah.
Those things come into play within those conversations where you have back and forth and you're trying to, you know, speak to people who have different ideas. And yeah, there's certainly, I think, a value in truth in many of those conversations where people are trying to look for truth over,
Mhm.
you know, just personal opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something about that form of play as conversation that is really present in the estuary spirit. And so you can kind of see that parallel with Jubilee. The problem is you've got a bunch of people with cameras around them debating someone who's got some clout that you may or may not have some personal animosity against.
Yes.
And many of them are trying to get, you know, the viral clip so that it can support their careers. You know, I can't knock that, you know, that has its place, whatever. The question is, how healthy is it making our person to person conversations?
Yeah.
And, you know, I wonder, I was thinking about this today. How would the conversations be different if you're having them without the cameras? Like, what if you created this gamified thing where you're not using celebrities and you're not using cameras and, you know, broader clout, but you're really
Mhm.
just playing this game in a more personal way? How would the spirit change? I don't know, but it would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
It could potentially make things worse because there is a value in the camera of being a behavior checker.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's like, well, this is going out to the world, so you want to save face in some ways, but
Mhm.
you know, there's it's a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
right?
It's double-edged, but I do think definitely the incentives in estuary are much more positive than a Jubilee
Sure.
perspective. I think we can say that. And then there's not a real ladder to climb or much status to gain. Um,
Yeah.
so
Well, it's just not the primary, right? And you know,
no.
you can't knock Jubilee for doing that because I don't know what their business structure is, but it seems like they're probably backed by some sort of like funding body.
Uh-huh.
So they have how would you say it? Accountability
Yeah.
to business. What are the words? I don't know. I'm my brain is mush. I have an
Yeah.
8-week old. So, but you know, they have that accountability of like, they have to make this a sustainable business. So you
Mhm.
have to think about creating those videos that are going to get the millions of views. And, you know, I think them compared to others do try to do things a little more honestly. From what I've seen, it does seem
Yeah.
like they're trying at least to do it more effectively to have civil conversation. But it always has its vices when you gotta make money. But a lot of these estuary creators, we're not really in it for the money. Most of us don't have big followings. We're not trying to make this career. We just want to have good conversations, and you know, we have to find a way to participate in that. And so you make these channels and you have conversations with friends, and you know, you try to get interviews with people you find fascinating, and
Mhm.
there's definitely something more grounded in it where it doesn't have such high, lofty, ambitious goals of trying to make money. It's really just trying to, yeah, like it's almost like we're trying to teach ourselves how to operate better in these
Yeah.
conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I do see a big how that translates for me in a big way in just daily life because in some ways you're learning how to communicate and to have conversation, and that structure, it kind of, it's there, and um it's extremely helpful, but you can also take that with you in your unstructured normal conversations and think, okay, maybe it's good to let the other person talk and to let me hear what they'd like to talk about. Maybe it's good to kind of try to listen deeply. um so yeah, I'm finding that really helpful. Maybe these are some things that we need to kind of relearn as a
Yeah.
society a little bit.
Well,
Uh,
how has it been for you as you're doing these regularly? I mean, I know you're doing it with some people who you've had
yeah,
long-term relationships with, some people
yeah.
that are newer. How has that been, and what has it changed in you?
It's been wonderful thus far. I just I'm doing it with my brother, two good friends, and two other. Well, one of them is my cousin. That's a coincidence, but yeah. So Gerjan, you've met
Yeah.
Gerjan and Florian. They're two people we met through kind of the online space, really. And one of them, Gerjan, happened to be a good friend of my cousin.
Oh, so it was just
So
an accident. He
it was
showed
an
up, and you're like,
accident. Yeah,
"Hey."
yeah, it's an accident, and he was interested also. So now I'm doing this estuary with him as well, which has been a lucky coincidence. But
Yeah.
it's also allowing me to kind of deepen that relationship with him, with my brother, with well, with everyone that's involved. So we basically have about six regular people, and then depending on the month, we have other people joining, and
That's good though.
that's good. Yeah, yeah, we have a
That's a
good
really
base.
solid base. Yeah.
Having a good base is really nice because you can build on earlier sessions, um, especially if we're talking about personal things. But so the relationship side's been wonderful to start with. I look forward to in general seeing them already, but to do it in this manner, it just ensures for me that the short time we have together, because we'll do it for an evening, 2 3 hours, is going to be valuable, and I'm going to feel like I actually saw them and I was seeing
Yeah.
myself, and yeah, beyond that, I was speaking with my brother about this the other day. It's kind of like when you're struggling with something, trying to work through something or a problem, whether it's intellectual or personal or whatever it may be, you can kind of bring that up. And I don't know, I don't think there's been a single time that there hasn't been one person that was seriously helped with something that
Yeah.
left there being like, wow, I can do something with this. And that's a beautiful process to see unfold each time. And so for me, it fills me with meaning, this feeling of connection, this feeling like you're really thinking for a moment. It's really more directed. It's kind of a bit like doing the podcast, but doing it in a group and doing that in person is, I think,
Yeah.
it's really extra special for me. So we've had some really, really wonderful moments, but overall the spirit of it is so good, and you just feel like you're really getting something that you would rarely get, even with the people that you spend a lot of time with, colleagues and
Yeah.
people you play sports with or whatever. It just doesn't naturally occur so much. So in that sense, that's been very helpful for me. Um, yeah. Otherwise, it is something that I just want people to experience more. So I really understand your wants to kind of spread it because every time I leave there, I'm like, well, this was great. And I think if a lot of people had this even once a month would like help them so much because some people they carry such things with them, whether
Yeah.
it be just working through questions or questioning their own life or yeah, that just really helps with that. So I really understand that you see that and the potential for it.
Yeah. Well,
So
it's really interesting that you pick up on that sense of the spirit of like that you take it on with you outside
yeah,
of that. Because me and my husband talk about that all the time, where there's something about our participation with estuary, and we're not actively part of an estuary right now. I do a lot of work within the estuary movements, and
yeah,
so I'm still very much connected, but he's much more disconnected. He's just kind of like living life,
yeah,
raising the kids, going to work, and but something that we've kind of recognized is that because we've had this experience and exposure to estuary, there's something about that spirit that we take into other places, whether it's our church or our football club or our work. And all of a sudden, it's transforming those relationships there and helping us to see people in a way that maybe we couldn't have before. And I don't know. It's hard to say if it didn't exist at all because I feel like I was having estuary style conversations before
yeah,
estuary was even a thing because I was working in entertainment and I was very religious, but surrounded by people who were not. And without even trying, having these beautiful conversations about religion, what they think and what I think, and honest conversations, not placating conversations, like
Yeah.
dealing with hard truths and still maintaining relationships and those things. And so I don't think it was absent to me before, but having this participation and this experience and going through the structure of those things with estuary, it's definitely helped me hone those things better. It's given me more patience in it and less sort of I think fear, but also insistence
Mm.
on getting to the bottom of things. It's
Yes.
like learning how to have this sense of, yeah, sense of it be play. Because I think
Yeah.
before this, I saw it much more as like a vital importance, like a
Yes.
life or
Yes.
death thing
I
of like,
relate to this.
you
Yeah.
have to get to the bottom of it. Like I
Hmm.
often talk about my religious experience compared to my husband's. It's like he was like in this river and he was letting the current take him where he
Yeah.
wants to go and he's floating and he's enjoying it. And I'm like swimming upstream trying to like,
Yeah.
survive. And it was just sort of this realization of like having this space where I could see it in a more calm and less
Yeah.
urgent manner. Like it helped me get to the place where I had, yeah, I think better answers to questions, but certainly more like confidence in working through that. And
Yeah.
so there's something kind of beautiful to that.
Definitely. And it helps you trust that the playful way is kind of gonna be it's gonna be quicker, easier, and more productive than the one where you're just fighting against the currents. And
Yeah.
that's a for me also a big lesson. I feel like before, I mean, a lot of people listening to this will probably have had the whole rabbit hole and like learning all of these things and transforming their mind about all sorts of topics, and having these religious realizations or whatever. And then it turns into this really, yeah, vital thing that you say as well. For me, that became very emotional. Like whenever
Mm,
some of these topics would come up, my heart starts beating. I was like, I have to say something. I have to like discuss, and I have to, and I feel that as the years have passed and I've gotten to speak to a lot of people, the spirit of play has really come up more, um, and just letting the truth be the truth as well,
yeah.
and trusting that you find it, if you're honest in your pursuit. Whereas I think before, when it was so vital and stuff like that, you kind of get into debate type of mode and
Yeah.
things like this, and you want to be right, and yeah, it's so I think S2 helps with that as well, because there's no arguments to win really, um, or at least there shouldn't
But
be.
there could be, and I don't think that's necessarily wrong, but that realization of like, yeah, the generally the people you're speaking with and living with your community with, whether they agree with you or not, if they see the truth you see or not,
Yeah,
they're all on the same journey. Like
yeah.
the common denominators, we're all human. We're
Mm,
all trying to find a meaningful life, and we generally want to do that well. Of course, there are bad actors, right?
yeah,
There are people who will take advantage and whatever. But let's talk about the general rule of generally we all want the same goal. And if there is some ultimate truth that is there to exist, I think we generally want to have it. We want to know it.
yeah.
But like you said, sort of the truth is the truth.
Mm,
My worrying about it and fighting over it isn't going to change the reality of it. And
that's
there's
good.
something to know that yeah, having patience with that process of understanding truth
Hmm.
is super vital to actually like having peace with it.
Yeah,
And there's something to be said about both processes, right? Because sometimes, let's say you're in a river and 50 yards away from you, 100 meters away from you, whatever, there's a waterfall that will help you plummet to your death. You might want to swim. You might want to
yeah.
swim hard and
That's
swim for your
good.
life.
That's a good point.
But I don't think, in general, we find ourselves in that environment where we're swimming near death.
Yes,
I think a
yes,
lot of times we're in a lot more friendly waters than we realize. And
yes.
I think that's what Breakwater is trying to do, is try not make a safe space, but create a space where the waters can be friendlier, where you can feel like you can swim without getting
Yeah.
taken by the current,
Yeah.
without getting, you know, yeah, like too much chaos in there. But also a place where when you're out of the waters, there's a safe harbor to build a life on because you can't live in an estuary. You got to go out and you got to build other communities.
Yeah.
But you can allow that experience of that participation and that play help you understand what it is to build stronger communities outside of it.
Yeah.
But
And I
that's how
guess
I see
that's
it.
I see that really clearly now you're saying it because I mean it is about this in-person connection and in-person connection is rarely hostile. And I think one of the reasons that we felt this urge to fight and this vital nature to the things that we're wanting to learn and express might be because our world was a little more hostile, let's say a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
when we're more isolated, and you're more online, and even when you're in a car, you're already much more hostile, right?
Yeah.
Let alone behind a phone screen. And I think when you're in a personal conversation with someone, it's just very rare for it to escalate or for someone to like, say
Yeah.
outrageous stuff. And sometimes outrageous stuff requires a serious and more powerful response. But people are quite friendly in in daily interaction.
Generally, yeah. But it's not to say that it can't turn quickly, right? Something we've learned through the event stuff, but also through doing these estuary events and
Yeah.
meeting people. Yeah, there are people's lives who they say the wrong thing and they get isolated from friends and family.
Mm.
Or, and I don't talk about it much, but our first festival, we almost had to cancel it the week of because there were people threatening to protest our event because
Really?
of certain things they saw online that they didn't like. Now,
Mm.
thankfully, we had a personal connection with the venue and we were very intentional about how we handled those,
Mhm.
that we were able to overcome that. But
Yeah.
it was really scary. And then yeah, we had some scary things happen after too. It's not that it doesn't come without cost, and it doesn't mean
Mm.
that some of this stuff can't actually hurt, but I think that's where I get inspired to be a part of estuary more too, because it's sort of like if we can find a way to create a space where we can survive maybe some of this and feel
Yeah.
like we can be redeemed from some of the scary things that happen and come
Yeah.
together as like how would you say it common travelers trying to climb the same mountain and figure out what the right way to the top is. Like
Yeah.
it's going to help in those times when it does get scary and when we do get misunderstood and when yeah, you've been hurt from trying to be honest about these questions, because there's a lot of ways we can get hurt and we can hurt others in those things.
Yeah. Well, I think the more estuary becomes kind of, let's say, the more types of people join estuary, the harder it is to kind of protest it. You know what I mean? The harder it is to kind of get upset about it, in the sense that
Yeah.
I feel like people can get upset by propositions or by opinions or this or that. And I think estuary, if it starts to become more of a community thing, like a community will have a lot of different things. It's like a family,
Hmm.
and it's hard to kind of not have a very diverse type of family that will argue within itself and will find its own way and its own struggles. But um, I find it hard to see how people could get upset about, you know if you look at it in its pure form.
Well,
You, you want Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
it's almost something you have to see, because like I can understand why people might get upset about it if they have preconceived baggage on
Yeah,
certain things that come with adjacent things to estuary, or
yeah,
certain beliefs that people hold in estuary and all of those things. But then you
yeah,
come in and you experience it the way that it's meant to be experienced with the right spirit. All of a
yeah,
sudden you kind of go, what am what am I mad about?
yeah, yeah,
And so but it gets tricky too, because that's why I think the in person is really helpful, because it really grounds you in those human relationships. But I think everybody knows that the closer you are to a human being, the easier it is to be hurt by them as well. And so
ah,
there's that
yeah,
reality of like, what we're doing with these in-person estuaries, you can't really call it a safe space because you're actually creating a more vulnerable space.
yes,
But in that, there's a level of responsibility and respect that we're entering in there, where it's like, hey, we're entering in this place of vulnerability, and we're expecting it to be reciprocated to make it
Mm,
safe, but it's not always going to be. And so how do you find good support so that you can find a way to allow that vulnerability to cause minimal havoc?
yeah,
Because it can get really tricky.
yeah. And to allow that vulnerability to kind of flourish into something else, because I mean, being vulnerable, it's super difficult. But if you're vulnerable with the right people, they'll really help you, I hope.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, vulnerability is the only way you can really get to honest answers about big
mhm.
questions.
Yeah,
But it's almost the most terrifying thing to do, because the minute that you're vulnerable, it's the minute that you're, taking your armor off and allowing yourselves to be wounded in a way that,
yeah, yeah.
can be really, how would you say it? It make it hard for you to want to try again. But this is where it's sort of like an estuary. We're trying to create that space where you can be vulnerable, make a mistake, and try again. But, a lot of that has to be grounded in human relationships, because there's something to that human currency that helps us navigate the waves of the up and downs, where you don't want to be a jerk to the guy you see every week,
Yeah.
whereas you can be a jerk to the guy online who you see
Yes.
maybe every 3 months, or who kind of annoys you. But if you're coming back every week, you don't want to be a jerk to that guy. But then
No.
there's also something too, where outside of the moments where you might be irritated or like frustrated, you see the real good in them too. You see the
Mm.
human
Hmm.
human
That's
reality in them
true.
too. And it's
That's
sort of
true.
like, it's that exercise to fight your own sort of weaknesses,
Hmm.
and in order to like make vulnerability more possible.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
it's you're really making me see it in a different way. Sure. Like I'm seeing how like yeah, like you say, it's not always the safest. In many ways, it's the place that yeah, how to describe it.
Well, it's weird, because in some ways you feel safe to say things there that
Yes.
you don't always feel safe to say in other places. But
Yes.
like the thing is, it's not like this safe space where like we're being sensitive to other people's feelings, and what's good for you is good for me. Like, we're really
Yeah.
challenging each other.
Yes.
We're like, we're putting it out there. We're not holding back. Like, you
Mm.
kind of have to be there and be willing to say, like, your ideas are going to be challenged in a way you might not like, and you got to
Yeah.
learn how to deal with that. And so it's sort of that weird thing where it's like you feel safer being there, but it's not a safe space. It's actually pretty dangerous what
Yeah.
we're actually doing. And so it's sort of, I think, yeah, trying to teach ourselves and each other how to have responsibility with that
Hmm.
vulnerability, so things
Yeah.
can be safer. And that doesn't come from being precious with each other. It comes from being direct and honest, but respectful and polite, and yeah, being willing to admit wrong when we do it and come back and try again
Yeah.
differently.
Yeah. I guess it's like having a serious conversation when you know you got to be very careful with your words. You want to be precise. You want to be listening very well. You want to speak very well. But this is also where, in my experience, the most progress is, or the most breakthroughs happen. You know, it's the most exciting part of conversation for me. It's when it is
Well,
less safe. You know, it's like
but it's nice there, because in sometimes when you go into estuary, you feel like you can say the wrong thing, and
yeah,
it's okay.
yeah,
And there's going to be someone who's going to come in and ask you a question, or they might even directly challenge you and go, "That's stupid," and you go,
yeah,
"Okay, well, why is it stupid?" And
yeah,
it's like, and you're having to face your own sort of emotional baggage with that. But then, yeah, I don't know, and maybe it's my personality too. I'm
uh-huh.
kind of that sort of challenger personality, where I like to be faced with difficult problems, and I'm happy to be the odd man in the room, because I
Yeah,
feel like I just learn so much from when someone tells me they think I'm stupid.
yeah, yeah,
But whether I am being stupid or not, like, it's just, there's always something I can gain for that, even if it hurts my feelings.
hmm,
But yeah, there's something about the way that I've seen estuary play out, where people really feel like they can tell their stories and say what they really think and what they really feel, and they can be heard, not placated, but like heard. And then there's that place to work through that and try to like learn from other people's experiences, as we're all trying to probably answer the same question that that person is putting out on the table and being vulnerable about.
yeah, yeah. All right. This is great. I'm learning a lot. I feel like it's definitely I do estuary, but I've not reflected on it, and it's fun to
Mm,
reflect on it. Um,
yeah.
so that's really cool. And I hope that people who listen to this kind of feel encouraged to engage in it as well, if it is anywhere near them. But maybe to go back to the festival a bit, I want to make sure we touch on everything that you wanted to touch on that wants to be said. Um, yeah. Is there anything else left to say about this specific breakwater that's coming up?
No, I mean, just that, the best way to get more information is to look at our crowdfunding page. That'll have all the stuff about where we're going and then the
Mhm.
specific event itself. And then, yeah, there's emails there too. And I'm happy to have people reach out to me if they have any specific questions, but that'll give you the best sense of kind of where we're going. We have the pre-sale tickets, but we also have a couple experiences like an after party, speaker dinner. We even have sort of a retreat style accommodations that we're organizing where people can, buy a bed in a nice property near the venue and kind of have a estuary retreat experience. It's really great for people who are coming internationally. So
Yeah,
all of those things are on their website, but the venue itself is pretty close to the train station. It's like a minute walk from the Colombo
that's
train
wonderful
station.
for me.
So yeah, so if you want to organize your own accommodation, if you're coming out of town, there's plenty of place in Utrecht or Houten, or there's other options in Culemborg itself. So there's going to be a lot of places for that. So and more information will come out as we keep going, but that's sort of the initial information. So any support is really helpful. We have a goal of 10,000 euros we're trying to raise by the end of August. So if we get there, that really gives us the breathing room. And if you purchase tickets there and for some reason we don't make the goal, it's a fixed account. So all your money will be returned, and we'll probably still do an event. We'll have to have conversations of what that looks like, but having that initial funds really helps give us a space so that we can make sure we do this festival right and build to what we want to do in the future. So that's what your coming to the festival helps us do. But also, if you want to put a donation, that's what it helps us do. It helps us to make this festival a success, but all the other things successful as well. So we can continue helping estuaries, because that's really all we want to do. This has been, I don't get paid, but this is the most fulfilling work that I've ever done in my life, and I want to keep
Oh,
doing it. And so, any help, if you find this interesting, any help to help us keep doing it is so much
yeah,
appreciated.
that's wonderful. Well, I will be there. I'm very excited about it. November is still a little bit away.
Yes, 7th
Um,
through the 9th, first weekend in November. So it's going to be really fun. And I think whatever shapes up, we're going to have a good time. And it's actually my birthday weekend that time. So,
that's wonderful.
come celebrate my birthday with me.
That'll be exciting. Thanks so much for your time, Cassidy.
Yeah, thank you, Lucas. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Give my best to Ferdy and the
Oh,
two
will
little
do.
ones. And
Will
we'll see
do.
each other. All right. Have a good one. Bye
Thanks.
bye.